Hi, welcome to English Cultural Programs. I'm David Heine, and today we're at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. We've come to see what is their major summer show, the still lives. There are some beautiful paintings. In the 17th century Holland, they specialized in still lives of this wealthy and opulent country at that time. Exotic things were pouring in, and they painted them. These painters became specialized in some of the most exquisite paintings, people that could render silverware or glassware or feasts in such exquisite detail that they were highly prized as individuals and as painters. It was one of those golden ages for everybody. So today we're going to see what is probably one of the finest collections of still lives ever brought together in one place. So let's go in and see the still lives. Wouter, could you tell me, in this day of rising prices, was it difficult to get together all these paintings? You've got them from all over the world, I saw.
No, it was very difficult. Collectors and museums don't like to part with their precious belongings, and in this case, as we tried to get the very best for this show, it was extremely difficult, yes, but we were successful in the end, and I think we collected one of the most outstanding groups of Dutch and Flemish still lives imaginable.
Now, Dutch and Flemish still lives, as you point out, reached its zenith in the 17th century, didn't it?
What practically happened is that the start for the genre was created in the mid-16th century, but around 1700 in Holland, suddenly a number of artists discovered that they had real talent for doing tiny things, to do grapes or flowers or meat or whatever, and they discovered that through specialism they could reach the very best, that they could use their talents as best as possible. And that created a very creative atmosphere in which many artists showed the best of their abilities.
Now, within these specialties, what were some of the specialties that these people created?
Yeah, flower still lives, as a matter of fact, but also books or hunting still lives, or the trompe-l'œil, which is also a very special thing in which the look-alike reality comes as close as possible. But the look-alike reality is really one of the things that people liked and that the artists were very good at, and their creativeness has almost never been surpassed.
Now, what were some of the ideas that were conveyed in these still lives?
Well, as a matter of fact, it's very often vanity, but also some of the ideas just like to show what is all around in the 17th century, the pure richness and the pure, the number of things that were collected in Holland and Flanders. And in the painting behind me, this is really a combination of everything. The artist piled up all the best goodies of the world, and on top of it is a skull, which is vanity in the end. So that is a very clear example, but in many others it's difficult to know what the real meaning was behind it, although very often it is showing off how good can I paint a glass, or how good can I paint a rose. And in that respect, the artists were extremely successful.
Now, I had a little theory that during that period, of course, Holland was the richest country in the world, or certainly one of them. And yet the Calvinistic religion mitigated against ostentatious display of your wealth. Was by putting it in these paintings and displaying it that way more permissible?
I really don't know. Actually, there are very clear examples that people said things about their art, and well, that there is no embarrassment in this approach of these owners, nor in the artist. And well, if you think, for instance, about this beautiful still life with books by Jan Lievens. This is a young artist who just uses an old piece of wood and started to paint books, old books, and robust big books. And he likes the cut bindings and the old leaves and everything. And well, there is nothing about vanity in that painting. It's just about the artist wanting to show off how beautifully he could paint old books.
Now, I've noticed in some of them there seems to be symbolic or unspoken kinds of implications in the paintings. What are some of those things that were conveyed in the 17th century?
Well, in this exhibition we really concentrate on the things that are pretty clear, like in this painting, which is about vanity in the end, or in a painting by Maria van Oosterwijk, who is a well-known flower painting and who was a daughter of a preacher man. She was a daughter of a preacher man. And she really showed in this painting that it was about the end of life and about the accounts that had to be made up at the moment of your death. Well, that is a clear message. So in that case, we are also very clear in our labels, but otherwise, in other paintings, for instance, the opulence, the pure opulence, is the subject indeed.
And of course, they had a lot of new things coming into them in those days, didn't they? I noticed one was fruits from Brazil.
Yes.
Some of these things seem obviously not indigenous to Holland.
Oh no. From the very start, the artist had a preference for the exotic or the things that were not available on the Dutch market. However, if we think on the richness of a De Heem painting, for instance, I'm thinking of the Vienna De Heem. There it is opulence, but it's also the artist displaying that he could paint a wonderful festoon, that he could paint oysters or books or silverware, and it's all collected in this beautiful painting around a Brazilian parrot. So here you have all the exotics, but all to show off that the artist could do everything.
Now, it was very popular in those days to have what was called a curiosity closet, wasn't it? I mean, some of these paintings almost appear to be a curiosity closet.
Well, we included two paintings in the show that indeed are a collector's cabinet, and one in the early years and the other one later on by van der Heijden. And well, this draws you in this room where you can expect the strangest things, and drawers might contain more interesting objects, but we don't know.
Now, I noticed that in those paintings that convey a wall in which the reality is sometimes the same as the painting itself, the trompe.
Yeah.
That must have been a specialty unto itself, was it not?
Yes, it was absolutely a thing that came up around 1650, and that, well, painters liked it, but collectors too. And there's a famous story about a German emperor who tried to pick up, well, maybe a comb from one of these trompe-l'oeil paintings. And then there's a poem about that moment in which the poet said that the artist was even superior to the emperor. Well, that shows how people thought about it, but it's also a joke, as a matter of fact. For in the end, the paintings are as flat as possible.
Now, what kind of medium were they using to paint these paintings?
Most of them are in oil. There's one exception in which we don't know what was done, and that is the Terentius painting, which is an amazing painting from 1614, in which the artist evidently used secret materials, and we still don't know what he did, but it is an amazingly beautiful painting. An artist who was intriguing too, for in the end he was trapped into in court, and he was his paintings were burned, and this is the one painting that survived the trial.
He was considered a heretic, or?
He was a heretic indeed, and married to more than one woman, and so that all caused his troubles, I'm afraid. But as a painter, he was very famous, and right so, for as we look at that painting, it is a miracle.
Now, what was the surface they were painting on? Was this canvas?
It might be canvas, panel, wood, or copper, maybe. And, well, that are the three things that we have in the show. In general, the earlier paintings are more often on wood, and the later paintings more often on canvas, but it's not a general rule.
Well, could you tell me, how long will this show be here at the Rijksmuseum?
The show is up to mid-September. It's the 18th of September, is it? The show is up to the 18th of September, and then it will travel on to Cleveland, to the Cleveland Museum of Art, where it will be shown in November, December, and early January of 2000.
Well, thank you very much. I think we're lucky here in Amsterdam to have this show. Thank you again.
It's a pleasure.